Let's start the work session for July 6, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little of that for a while. All right, first up, we roll call.
Yes. Councilman Scarinci,
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn. Councilman Strawn, just had
Present.
You're good. And President Scanlon.
Present.
So that's all 7 here.
Okay, first
And
up.
Frank is also on.
Was it?
Yeah.
All right, first up, we have the mayor and Chief Eggleston discuss the new fire station.
Right, so good evening, everyone. As you can see, we have our fire chief, Dan Eggleston, and Dave Holleran, who is the head of the firefighter union, representing the firefighters who are here joining me tonight, and certainly will be available to answer any questions that any of you have as I go through this. As you know, we sent out a news release earlier today that really contained the pertinent information, but for the sake of the public record, we'll go through and talk about the location at 235 Court Street is the site that has been selected for the new fire station headquarters. Both the chief and the head of the union were involved in the beginning with regards to selecting, firms, doing interviews, etc. So this has been an inclusive process. And the 235 Court Street, for those of you who don't know, it's on the corner of Chapman, and it's located in between Court Street and Pine Street, and it borders Chapman Street downtown. So I think many of you know that this is the result of the condition of the floor of the current fire station, which is located on the first floor of City Hall. And I've mentioned this publicly at many points in time and in several states of the city that we're concerned about the long-term viability of the floor as it continues to host up to 50 tons of fire apparatus. So we've been working over the course of the last year and probably a little longer with Barton and LaJudas to come up with a plan to reinforce that floor. But after going through the process, the estimate at $2 to $3 million just to stabilize that floor and extend the life of the floor, certainly not near as long as a new fire station would be, and also have an extremely disruptive project to the rest of the building where we'd have to shut down approximately a third to half of the building to do this project, really didn't seem to make sense for the long-term viability of the city or the fire department. We also think in the world that we live in today that it makes sense to have the police administration and the fire administration potentially in 2 different locations in the event that City Hall is ever compromised by a natural or unnatural situation. The location at 235 Court Street also addresses blight and serves to stabilize that particular neighborhood. So we are going to purchase 235 Court Street for $220,000. And we'd like to have the fire department into a temporary location by August 1st. And we've been working with the engineers who are doing the floor to make sure that it's continues to be safe, obviously for the short term, which it is. So the location at 151 Court Street, nicknamed the Matco building, which is on the corner of Court and Carroll Street. Behind it is the Monroe Muffler, the old Monroe Muffler building. Across the street from where Rolando's is, approximately. So that's the area that we're looking at for the temporary location. So the plan would be that towards the end of this month in July, the fire department would begin the process of vacating the downstairs headquarters and would move over to 151 Court Street. We'd enter into a lease on a short-term basis and use that as a temporary location while the permanent location is built. And our hope is that by the end of next year, being the end of 2021 / beginning of 2022, the new location is entirely complete with the firefighters and the apparatus moving in. We do think it's best that obviously, the city is in perpetuity, so we want to own a location, not rent a location, but we did look to see if that 151 Court Street had the potential to be remodeled for maybe a long-term permanent facility, and it didn't seem like that was viable. One of the things I think that was important to the fire department, and the chief can elaborate on this, is that in a new design they'd like to have what's called a drive-through, and it sounds like exactly what it is. You could pull in on one street and pull out onto another street, et cetera, depending how it's oriented, as opposed to having to what we do now at all of our stations, currently stop traffic and back in and pull out, et cetera. So I'll also mention that the city currently owns 76 and 78 Pine Street, which are two vacant properties right now. They are located behind 235 Court Street. And we have also recently acquired 80 Pine Street from the county through the Broome County tax foreclosure process. And we would be looking to demolish 235 Court Street and 80 Pine Street this year as well, to have an expanded footprint for this property. We are teaming up, or we are look to engage with a nationally renowned fire station design firm. We did have a lot of interest when we bid this out, but there's an award-winning, nationally known firm that Keystone Associates, which is a local firm, is teaming up with. So we're really excited about having a nationally known firm, a firm that's won awards for their design, et cetera. So you have a variety of different RLs that need to come down, that are involved in different bits and pieces of this, and some of you have them, and we can certainly answer questions on those. But before, I'd like to turn it over to the fire chief, maybe just to say a few words on why he thinks this project is important and supports it.
Okay, yeah, we've been looking at this for a while. In the fire department, we've been having issues with the headquarters floor for numerous administrations, and every time we bring it up, we talk about it for a while, and then nothing would ever happen. At least now something started happening, and they did samples of the floor, and we realized the floor wasn't safe. It was a long process. We were planning on repairing the floor, moving out for a 4-month period. We had a plan to move into our stations for a 4-month period, which only worked during warm weather. It involved parking the med cars outside, and obviously December, January, if you have a CPR, you can't go out and defrost your windows. We only have so much space in our existing stations. So we had a plan for a short-term move, but this will obviously be, we're looking almost 18 months. So moving into the temporary, we had hoped for a temporary location. And when the mayor approached us about building a brand new fire station, we were overjoyed. We haven't had a new fire station in 50 years, but and all our fire stations are pretty old. So the process has been going on a while. It all seems to be falling into place right now. Hopefully we have your support for that. But it's been a long process, and this is how we got here today.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. One thing I just want to add is one of the things that we've been trying to move away from is costly short-term Band-Aids, right? That's what we did with the Collier Street ramp. Instead of just investing millions of dollars to extend its life just a few years, we demolished it and built a new one. It just doesn't make sense to spend $2 to $3 million on a Band-Aid patchwork to repair the floor and all the other costs associated with having to relocate, all of those offices. So, the situation is currently safe, but, we have concerns about the long-term viability, of that floor. And so I'd ask now Dave Holleran, the head of the union, to say a few words as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor. And I also appreciate the mayor including us in this whole process along with the chief. It has been a long process, a lot of options and things were considered. And at the end of the day, this plan that the mayor laid out in front of you, we are in support of, and we feel that it would be good for the fire department, the members of the fire department and the residents of the city of Binghamton.
Thank you, Dave.
Could I just want to add one thing? As far as the location goes, we opened this up obviously to all members of the fire department. To the general public was always asking me, where's the new fire station going to go? I go, I'll take any ideas you got. I took ideas from anybody who had one. And we looked at all the locations, and several of them were in the floodplain. When you start looking around, there aren't really a lot of empty lots in downtown Binghamton. We didn't have a whole lot of options. But I got inputs from the bottom of the fire, always the chief officers and numerous members of the public too.
Thank you. President Scanlon, if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
I have a question.
Sure, Joe, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The Southside Neighborhood Assembly has sort of been meeting online, and this question came up about if the fire station on Conklin Ave is busy, what is the difference in response time to go to Southside West across from MacArthur School, from where, because you were just right over the bridge, now you're there. So I didn't know what they tell them. Is it 30 seconds? Is it a minute? Or, what do you think it is?
Councilman, I actually measured the distance from the new proposed location to right on the bridge there, and I drove from the fire station to the State Street Bridge where you come off the exit ramp. It added 1 minute and 5 seconds, and I was going without lights and sirens. Obviously other parts of the city were closer to, and on our end, we're looking to temporarily rearrange our response times. Who responds to what? Before the tower from headquarters would respond to a lot of parts of the Southwest. We may have engine 1 from the South Side respond to a larger area than they used to do. We're altering our response times. We're trying to do everything to deal with it. But I did come up with 1 minute and 5 seconds, probably a little less to the west side.
Okay, thank you. And for Dave, I know that each firehouse is required to have a certain amount of firefighters to maintain it, to be open properly. So does this in any way affect the amount of firefighters needed in the city? Are you happy that is the union happy with the consolidation?
We did discuss that exact point, the mayor and the chief, and there will be no impact on staffing.
Awesome.
At the end of the day, when this all settles out and we're in the new location at 235 Court Street, the same amount of personnel will be in that station, same amount of fire trucks.
Beautiful. Thank you.
No change in staffing.
I didn't recognize you, David, when I came in with the mask on.
Councilman Burns, one other thing, and I'm reminded by this by your question. Some of the council members, since this happened last year, may have, are already aware of this, but the new ones may not, that there was a previous study that was commissioned when we were looking at the old DPW site at the corner of the Brandywine. And, anybody that's interested in reviewing that, that was something that was completely different. The only reason I bring it up is because what they were saying was it's not necessary, it's the number of firefighters that you have, not necessarily the locations. Because obviously anytime you move, you're going to increase response time a little bit one way, you're going to decrease it a little bit another way where you move. But what they were saying is as long as your numbers of firefighters were the same, and you have the same amount of stations, then that's what the chief was saying with now they're going to look at their map and they may adjust the borders a little bit to ensure, minimal impact. So
Okay, thank
I just wanted to mention that as well.
Other questions or comments? Councilwoman Riley?
Yes, hi. Again, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Perfect. Again, thank you guys for coming to explain. We did actually take a tour and we support the decision to move for the safety of our firefighters. I do have a question, however. Have we already seen the purchase agreement for 235 Court?
and Ken is on. So yes, we've signed a purchase agreement and gone through the due diligence period. I don't know, Ken, if you want to elaborate.
You said City Council has seen that document?
No, who are you asking has seen it?
That's what I just asked. Has City Council, have we already?
No.
No, we've
No,
not.
you haven't.
Okay. And what about an appraisal for the property at 235 Court?
Sure. So what we do anytime we are looking to purchase property is I ask the city attorney, Ken Frank, and the assessor, Margaret Myers, well, in this case, Margaret Myers, previously it was the assessor, Scott Snyder, when a property is listed to come up with their own value to determine, whether or not this is the fair market value, what is the box within it's fair for us to operate in. And the city assessor came up with a value that was actually slightly higher than what we were paying for it, which is good.
And finally, the Keystone Associates and Mitchell Associates, we've already entered into an agreement with them?
No, that's one of the RLs that you'll be voting on tonight, or you'll be voting on, not tonight, whenever you're voting on it. Council has to vote. We have selected that firm, and now that we have selected that firm, we want to enter into a contract with them. So what we did is we send out an RFQ, a request for qualified firms. I believe it was, what, Ray, 18 maybe, approximately 18 firms that were responded, and then Ray puts together a selection team. Sophia was on it as the head of the Public Works Committee, and it was whittled down, and we did interviews for the top three. The fire chief was part of it. Dave was part of it, myself, and engineering, and several other people. So we selected the firm that we thought was the best, and now we go to City Council, and we want to enter into a contract with the group that we've selected, and Council has to approve that. So that is one of the RLs that we hope is going to be signed out and will be under consideration.
Okay, that concludes my questions.
Are you all set? Councilwoman Freeman, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for coming to the meeting and explaining all of this. I was taking a lot of notes. My only, I guess, concern is that, there are benefits obviously to living near a fire station, but there are also detriments. And I'm thinking like that 235 Court, that's right near my house. So I'm just thinking, was there any kind of input about, I'm thinking about the sirens and everything. So obviously, it's comforting to live near a fire station because ostensibly a fire truck would respond quicker, but I'm also thinking of the impacts on the neighborhood, like the sirens that probably will be going off a lot. So I'm just wondering, was there any kind of community input as to the new location that was?
Well, the bottom line with that is that if you're asking, did we go out and survey neighbors in that area for this? The answer to that is no, we did not. So, obviously we feel very strongly that there needs to be a fire station located downtown because of the growing number of people that are moving downtown. And obviously as we continue to, address the needs in our aging housing stock, and as we want more businesses to invest and expand, there needs to be a fire station somewhere in our downtown. That was not a criteria that was used. Location, access, and a host of other criteria are what were used to select the location. And as the chief said, you're really limited because obviously, we have a financial constraint that we have to operate within as well. So there really were not a whole host of sites. There were some, but at the end of the day, we all felt this was the best. But we did not survey nearby neighbors to get their input on this.
Okay, thank you. And I do want to say, of course, I understand there are lots of factors at play here. But I community, I'm thinking of the neighbors, and that's just a factor that maybe.
Sure, no, that's no problem. Our hope is that the neighbors that live in that area, welcome this, because obviously that location has been a source of blight for many, many years. And obviously, the investment, public investment, that should help stabilize an area that, frankly, has been in transition for a period of time. So we are hopeful that the neighbors welcome, this sort of presence.
All right, thank you.
One more question, sorry. So going back to the RLs that will be forthcoming, that will include details about the lease agreement regarding 151 Court Street and how long of an agreement we are entering into?
Sure. So I don't know if Ken is on or not, but
I'm on.
Okay, so the lease right now is a 14-month agreement. And then we obviously have the option to continue on a month-to-month basis. But anybody that wants, a copy of the lease, Ken Frank can field that and handle that for all of you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Heller.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
On the Parks Commissioner Palmer now for RL 20-1201.
I'd like to accept the from the U.S. Tennis Association of $3,000, which is basically double what we normally get. So, and we use that for all our equipment, for summer programs, and we have a great rapport with USDA, and we'd like to accept the $3,000.
Paul, there's a summer program for tennis for the kids?
Yeah, yes. We do run a summer program.
With the tennis involved?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. Other questions or comments on this?
The tennis camp is starting this year?
We haven't set it up yet. Been trying, of course. Baseball, softball, everything. Pools finally opening, so we haven't gotten to that yet. But we hope.
You hope to.
We hope we can do everything we can to get kids out of the house.
Yes, I agree.
I have a question. The tennis program, if it goes this year, I didn't quite hear that answer, but where is that? Is that just on one side of town, or where is that?
So generally speaking, it's at Rec Park. Because that's going to be under construction, we wanted to use a week period at each side of town. So we would move, say from Fairview, and then we would go, actually to West
Okay,
End.
yeah, I have some kids maybe be interested on the south side here. I'm just wondering if you'll be at MacArthur.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thanks. If you could let me know when it's going to happen, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Ron Lake Gunner?
I'm here.
Okay, Ron, tell us about RL 20-120, please.
Okay. We have some items that needed to be cleaned up. And there were things that were just missing from the drawings that we had to take care of. And I think all of those except for one are kind of like that. One of the big items was they had called for gas heat in one of the buildings and there was no gas to the building. So they were going to switch it out to electrical at a cost of, I don't know, 100,000 or so. And so I had them stop what they were doing and just run gas to the building and get it over with. So that one was like a $6,000 item. But most of these are just where items weren't complete on the drawings and we needed to get it done.
All right, Ron, you said missing from the drawings, right?
Say that again?
You said missing from the drawings, correct?
Yes.
So the engineering firm wouldn't be interested in helping us with this expense, right?
I don't know if I would say that, but we certainly should look at it eventually.
I'm being facetious, but I wish they would.
Yes.
Questions or comments on this? Councilwoman Freeman, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess my question is, why were these left off?
I can't answer that. They just weren't shown to be completed. Some of it we discovered during the process, but most of them were just items that there probably wasn't coordination between the equipment supplier and what needed to happen to make it work.
And I also have another question. In the suggested content, it says contract duration will be changed by 366 days. Does that mean that the contract with the firm is going to be extended for another year?
No, that means it was extended for a year. It was extended from 19 to 20.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we need to update.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on this? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, on RL 20-130, Ray Standish, please.
Yes. This resolution authorizes an agreement with the DOT to maintain the proposed lighting that will be installed on the greenway that runs along 434. That's being finished up and designed by the DOT now. It should go out to bid later this year.
Questions or comments on this? All right, on the 133, please, Ray.
Yes. This is to amend the 2016 bond ordinance for the water filtration sludge extraction system. I don't know if Chuck is around. He might have more information.
Ray, I'll talk a little bit about the bond ordinance itself. Back in 2016, we did a bond ordinance for $5.1 million. We've gone through many different design phases of this project, and the latest number I think we came up with was $6.1 million for the bond ordinance. But this time we're going to get 50% up to $3 million from the state EFC department to help us do this project. This project is a sludge extraction system that right now the sludge goes down to the sewage treatment plant. It's not the best thing in the world for it. This will help us through the winter months of not sending the sludge down in groups that really beats it up. We'll be able to send it down on a regular basis. down the road, there will be another project that we will actually take the sludge out of the process and dispose of it ourselves. That'll be another project. This project does not do that. So in the end, this project was originally going to be 5.1. It's probably going to end up being about 3.1 city cost to the water department. Ray, you want to say anything else about the issues we've had over there?
Well, yeah, what happens now is we don't have a sludge collection system right now at all. It just collects in the basins, and then we have to contract with a company to come in and haul it away, and that's very expensive. So this project installs a new sludge vacuum system that can vacuum the sludge periodically, and it can do it during the winter months where we don't have to store it up like the old system did. And the sludge will get sent to the treatment plant on like a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. And so the plant can handle the sludge when it comes in small portions like that. However, that material is not good for that plant. And that's why eventually in the future, we're going to have another project that will install, at this time, we're thinking a belt filter press to handle the sludge, and then it can get trucked right from the water plant right to the landfill without going through the wastewater plant and getting pressed down there and going to the landfill. So it relieves the Binghamton plant from having to handle it, and it's handled where it should be handled, which is the water plant. And this is just the first part of it so that we can extract the sludge properly. I hope that's clear. If it's not, feel free to contact my office and we can discuss it further.
Questions or comments on this? Thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Chuck, tell us about 12-118, please.
So make sure it's right. This one is to close out bond projects that we've done over the years that are either completed or we cannot spend any more bond money because it's exceeded the time period. So we're taking $2.6 million out of projects that we bonded for and reducing either, the first one is the Front Street Gateway project. It says we didn't spend $1.9 million. That's really not true. We just got a grant for most of that money. But this project is done and we need to remove the lines so that no money gets spent out of there. The North Bank Susquehanna Trail, same process there. Bathhouse improvement design construction, which was, we have $25,000 left in that set of lines that is not going to be spent, and improved bathroom facilities, $86.
So these lines, each project is completed in
Yes.
its entirety?
Correct.
Okay. Do you-
Chuck, go ahead. I'm
Oh, sorry. Do
No,
you
go ahead.
know how much we spent on the Susquehanna Trail
Off the
project?
top of my head.
No.
No, I can get them for
Okay,
you, Angela.
that'll
If
be
you,
perfect.
if you guys want me to
I'll
send it to you
email, yes.
on that one project, or,
No, just something in my head.
okay,
I'll email you.
okay.
I have a comment on that.
Oh.
What was that, Ray?
I have a comment on that.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
That trail was never installed. It was a project that was started a number of years ago. And when I came to the city in November 2015, they had just awarded the contract to the contractor. And the DEC and the Army Corps kept making, to them, subtle changes, but they ended up that it was going to like intensify that project, and they wanted us to make revisions to their flood wall, and they wanted to hold us responsible for a lot of stuff. So even though it was funded by the DOT, we met with the DOT, we discussed all the issues with the Army Corps and the DEC, and it was decided to terminate that project. Now, normally, when you have federal funds and you terminate a project, you got to pay all the funds back that you've expended. I'm waiting to hear, but I've been told that that's not going to happen on this job because of the issues that were raised by the DEC and the Army Corps. That the money that was expended is going to stay expended and the project is going to go away.
And how long in what time frame do you usually hear a response so that we would have to adjust budgets if we are to repay that money back?
I am not sure where that stands. That's between the DOT and the federal government. My understanding is that they've come to a verbal agreement, but I haven't seen anything in writing.
Just to clarify for me, so it is possible that they can come back to us later.
It's always possible.
Other questions or comments on this? Chuck, let's go to 119, please.
119, this is, every year we get grant money for certain bonded projects or band projects. I use that money to pay down the bond so we don't have to bond for it long-term. And this, when we do a bond, we don't necessarily know how much money we're going to get on grants. We can have an estimate. So this is the money that came in. I'm reducing what we're going to borrow long-term on this serial bond and increasing the grant revenue for that. So you can see that we, I don't have the exact projects that they are, but I could tell you 1.5 million came from federal aid and 147 came from state aid. And probably this federal aid is mostly related to the Front Street Gateway project.
Questions or comments on this? All right, Chuck, let's move on to 126, please.
126 is another federal money that the city can get from the federal health department to help fund people that do work for Medicare. In our case, it's the ambulance. So they will assist the city in funding their ambulance to take care of and doing all the cleaning and stuff of an ambulance, the sanitization and all the things that we have to pay. That's additional cost associated with operating the ambulance. We originally had this money going through FEMA. We're going to take that money out of the FEMA funds and put it to this fund, which we received $11,000 last week for. And we'll get money quarterly.
Questions or comments on this? 27, Chuck.
127. Jared, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, Jared will expand on this one as we get going, but this is another modification to the rec park tennis courts. Originally, in last year's budget, we put in $600,000 as a bond ordinance to repair those tennis courts. $600,000 is not going to cover the cost. It's going to be roughly $1.3 million. And Jared can explain what's occurred that's increasing the cost of this project.
Yep. We had applied in anticipation of a state grant fund in multiple years unsuccessfully as a capital upgrades to the rec park tennis courts to support the USTA tournament through Market New York. Again, not being successful in the grant awards and going through the engineering process to identify all of the different costs associated with this. We're going to increase the bond ordinance in order to pay for this. Some of the additional costs, the site that the tennis courts are currently at Recreation Park is sort of a drainage nightmare. There's roughly $230,000 in earthwork and stormwater that's needed on the project, as well as fixes to some of the fencing and curbs that surround the current courts that keep water on the courts and do not allow them to be squeegeed off to the open green space. In addition to roughly $500,000 just for the actual court upgrades themselves if we didn't do anything else but brought in the new court. So we've done soil borings, we've done court borings. The drainage issues at Rec Park are not unique to Rec Park. We have them at Fairview. We have drainage issues at MacArthur Park tennis courts as well, which will undergo a similar project next year to replace those that are in poor condition. So this is necessary to complete the project and also do it right, to not just support the 2-week professional tournament that's there, but Binghamton High School, Seton Catholic Central, boys and girls tennis that competes there, as well as a host of community members who pack the courts every day and every weekend on the west side.
Jared, when do you anticipate this being bid out?
This should be bid out probably at the end of the month, with some major construction starting later this year and being finished up in the spring.
Are there questions or comments on this?
Tommy, let me make one other
Sure.
comment, not necessarily about this one, but this one as well as the sludge extraction system. We're making an amendment to the whole original bond ordinance, but only one line item in each bond ordinance is being changed. If you were to look at it, the original one for the tennis courts was 600,000. That's being modified to 1,300, but the whole bond ordinance is being changed. When you see the dollar value, it's taking the original bond ordinance and adding the 700,000 to it. And the same for the sludge extraction system.
Questions or comments on this?
Yeah.
Councilman Burt.
Yeah, hopefully the pro tennis tournament, I guess it got canceled this year, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so hopefully they'll be back after COVID. But in the new design, are we taking into account that tournament and people watching and where to put that sort of, are we taking into account that pro tournament?
Yes, so we are. A couple weeks ago, we had a conference call with the project engineers from Barton LaJudas, Lori Bowen, who runs the tennis tournament, as well as Howard Rittberg, who's involved in the tournament, to get feedback on some of the design concepts that we had. The two major, I think, questions that came up were the court orientation with fencing, because we need to be able to get spectators in easily. Right now, they actually remove sections of fencing, which are not really sustainable in the long term. Number two was dealing with seating. And in this plan, we'll take advantage of the slope on the east side of those courts on Recreation Park to actually build in some concrete seating that can be used both for the tournament and for the high school activities that are there, sort of making the court all the way to the right, if you're looking at from Seminary, the tournament court. That will allow them to still do the on-court seating, the umpires, their video stuff, but allow for an additional, I think, 200 seats on that hillside. And then, from there, we'll work with parks to see if we can utilize that extra seating for movie nights in the park or other amenities or events, again, after COVID is all over.
That is an awesome answer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Riley.
Yes. Hi, Jared. Thank you for this explanation. I have a few questions for both you and Chuck. So when we saw this before, it was based upon an assessment and a review and a plan that was estimated at about 600,000. So now, was there an updated review or plan that said we would exceed or need to exceed that original budgeted amount? Oh, that's
Yes.
Jared.
Yes,
Okay.
when we were initially applying for the grants, we had anticipated this being a required city match, knowing that the courts may cost more. But the new information was the soil borings and investigation by Barton LaJudas, really detailing the drainage and stormwater issues that are associated with the complex and the additional investments that needs to be made. For 500,000 or 600,000, we could put a new playing surface that's a few inches thick on top of it, and it will look great for about a year. And then the stormwater issues, the drainage issues will essentially ruin the court. And it's what got it to the condition that it's in now, which is basically not being able to be repaired. So those considerations and some of the input from the tournament is how we arrived at the higher number, the true cost.
Okay. But we weren't privy to that new estimate.
The new estimate is roughly that 1.3 million.
Yes, please.
Jared, can you get Councilman Riley something from Barton LaJudas showing what makes up that difference?
Yeah.
Well, everyone would probably want to see.
Yeah, I was gonna,
Yeah.
Right, we want to see the change.
I would love to see it.
And then I do have a question. So the tennis tournament is a great event for the West Side and the entire city. Do we have a contract to ensure that we will have this relationship on an ongoing basis?
Well, the tournament is put on certainly locally, the Binghamton Tennis Challenger, but we've received assurances from USTA that they want to be back in 2021. And one of the main concerns that they had in terms of weighing whether to have a tournament in Binghamton, the Binghamton tournament being played on a public court, which is very, very unique to the USTA tournaments, was the court condition. So us having the courts upgraded to their standards will mean, in the near term that USTA will want to cite the tournament. And I think beyond that, the tournament is just 2 weeks a year. Really, this is for both the tournament and the recreational tennis players that are at Rec Park on a weekly basis.
Yes, but in looking at an entire city, this amount of money, we've almost doubled the budget for one set of tennis courts. And as you've mentioned, again, we do want to attract and retain the tennis tournament, but we have several other tennis courts that deserve upgrades as well. So we don't have anything in writing about the local tennis tournament on an ongoing basis. You said we have a verbal agreement, right?
Well, they want to continue the tournament for as long as possible at this facility.
So nothing in writing.
No,
Okay.
and that wouldn't be something that we would have in writing, nor the city would ever have in writing over the history of the tournament.
Okay. And then this is for you, Chuck, because you helped me understand this. It says, based upon the bonds and the principal not to exceed 9 million on page 54, the collection of taxes on all the taxable real property in the city to pay the principal of said bonds and interest therein shall become due and payable. So we are dependent upon the taxes of the homeowners to then pay this bond if we do not have other resources to generate the revenue.
Correct. That's with all bonds.
That's with all bonds. So as we increase, we're putting a greater burden on the taxpayers
That's correct.
for a tennis court.
Correct.
Okay. That's why I needed you.
Angela, another thing too is we did, and Paul's not here, I believe we did Fairview Park 2 years ago. We dug up, we fixed the drainage and took it from 3 courts down to 2.
But not for 9 million.
No,
It was
not-
much
Well,
cheaper.
there's five courts at Rec Park. There's
5.
there's 6. How many courts at Rec Park? Anybody know? There's
There's
6.
currently 7, and we'll with this plan be able to expand it actually to 8 courts with the same footprint.
So in Fairview Fairview Park is 2 courts. So
There
there's,
was 3, we made 2
Yeah,
because
that's
of the
fine.
problem. we
but
had.
it's going to 8 at Rec Park. It's a big difference. Big difference.
But if we look at
It wasn't 9 million.
taxation and we look at priorities, that's why I asked for clarification.
It wasn't 9 million for Rec Park, it's only going from 600,000 to 1.3.
Okay.
Okay. But if you look at the detail on that bond, you would see that there's a detailed page that was changed.
Okay. But what's this? That's the total bond, including the sludge, including,
Well, in this case, whatever results, so these were the projects that were in that year.
okay,
Okay, so
Okay.
the only one that we changed is this 6.3.
okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
It should
Now,
be-
this is what we also sell, right? Or we try to.
Yes.
Okay,
We'll sell that
next year.
Okay, okay, so again, thank you for that, and that helps me. It helps anyone that's watching as well. Because again, we're trying to make sure we're prioritizing based upon what our constituents say. And if, again, we're saying this is becoming a taxable burden based upon list, and it doesn't align with the priorities of what we're hearing, we have to be able to explain it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments on this?
I have a question real quick. Are we hearing any opposition from the constituents, from not just from the west side, but has anyone heard anything? I've heard nothing but positive feedback. Some of these are all very, very good questions, obviously. But I have not heard anything.
I'm not sure they knew about the 6,000 to 13. I'm sorry, yes, right. I don't think that was out there. So now that it's out there, you may hear some feedback, because that is, again, a 100+ bump for the tennis court.
Well, we want double, yeah. You might, yeah, you could hear some feedback, yeah. I'd be surprised.
Well,
I'd be surprised if
I don't know that any of us knew about the original. I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off? I think that, you know, this is all of our parks are very important, and we certainly have to be mindful of the expenses. But I also feel like, you know, the continuation of putting these short-term bandages on our projects has become problematic. And also, you know, this park has, not only we have these amazing tournaments and visitors that it brings to our community. Binghamton High School, Seton, I mean, it's just being utilized by so many folks and groups in our community. And also, this is, I believe, is going to be named, or will be named after Harper Stance. And so there's definitely, it's something that's very meaningful. Having said that, I understand the cost should always be something that we're thinking about, and have as much information as possible. I know that personally, certainly so far, I have heard nothing but absolutely positive comments regarding this project, and many folks are very excited, as I am.
Other questions or comments? Tell us about 131, please.
131 is an ordinance authorizing the city to accept insurance reimbursements as well as donations for the Our Space program. Basically, what I'm asking here, and Ken, can you hear me? Ken, still there?
You may be back.
Yeah. Well, we're
No, Chuck, I'm sorry, I'm here. I was
okay.
pulling up paper and I had to minimize things.
I tried to call you back because we didn't talk about this, but my request on here was about accepting the donations as they come in instead of going down to council each time and informing them as we get the donations and the insurance things, so we can keep this project moving forward.
Yeah, the legislation will say without further we can accept donations without further council approval and insurance proceeds.
At some point, I'd like to see the list of the people who donated to this project. Just because we're around, we're in town, if you see somebody, you can thank them. I know there's a bunch of different groups, a bunch of individuals. Is it possible to see those, Ken?
Chuck, if I remember correctly, it's the community foundation that's accepting the donations.
Yes,
so
and
we
no.
would have that list, and the GoFundMe page, that we would have to reach out to them and find out.
That's the ones that I think we'd have a hard time getting, is the GoFundMe page. I don't know what we see from there. From the community foundation, they will give us that list.
Yeah, we can get that info for you, Tom.
All right, I just threw it out there. If we can see, that'd be great.
You know, I bet their emails, sorry, I bet their emails are on the, I know when you donate to that, they ask for your email. Maybe we could send them a thank you, you know, from the city to everybody. I mean, you know, something nice.
Joe, the financial person from the community foundation was added as an admin on that GoFundMe to create legitimacy. So I reached out to Diane Brown at the community foundation, see what we can get together on this.
Cool.
Other questions or comments on this? Jared, tell us about, I'm sorry. Somebody say something? Good. All right, tell us about 125, please, Jared.
Sure. So 542 State Street is a 6-unit property managed by Opportunities for Broome. It's a nonprofit. Due to their the type of housing they're providing at this location, this has come up in the fore of some others. They're not required to pay property taxes, but as a good faith effort with the city of Binghamton, they provide a pilot payment or in lieu of taxes payment. And this is their proposal at $2,400 a year. They, and Ken can jump in here too, but they are not required to pay anything. And so a previous pilot expired and we'd like to create a new one. It's really kind of a benefit to the city. They don't have to pay us $1. So I would recommend that we accept this. I believe the previous term was for 10 years. If council would like to adopt that, that would be my recommendation again.
Is there comments on this? Somebody say something?
It was a lady.
It's someone in the background.
Oh, okay.
Someone's.
Jared, tell us about 129. Is that yours also, 129?
It should be. Is this the CDBG?
Yeah. Is that,
Yes.
John?
So I think on this one, Ken sent an email out as sort of a crash course on adoption of budget. I'll give the floor to him to talk more about it. And then Councilman Strawn, as the finance chair, I can provide you with the first set of pages to open as part of it following Ken's discussion.
So I did send a note out to everybody. I know for a number of you, this is your first time dealing with a budget and basically dealing with the city budget. And basically what we do is we've adopted the same process for the CDBG funds as we do for the general budget. So what you have before you is, I don't remember, I think it's 19 pages, all set up in Munis that creates a budget, and it's broken down into ESG, home, and I guess just general CDBG funds.
Yep.
So what's going to happen is Jared will make a recommendation and say, okay, let's do ESG first, and that's pages 5 through 10. I'm making that up. Right? The chair of the finance committee, Councilman Strawn, will say, okay, call pages 5 through 10. Jared will describe what's in the pages. Council members can ask questions to Jared as the presenter about those pages. He'll provide the responses. Somebody can make a motion to amend the page. It has to be seconded, and then there's a vote as to whether or not you want to make an amendment. If we get to an amendment, I'll explain. You don't move money directly from A to B. Basically, you'd move it into a contingency and then make a second motion as to where to move it from there. Because somebody may agree with moving it out of A, but may not agree with moving it out of B. Right? Once any motions are all done, somebody will basically say, call the pages. Right? You'll take a vote as to whether or not to approve the pages that have been called. And once they're done, they're done. In order to recall them, you need a 2/3 majority to bring them back, and somebody in the majority has to call to bring them back. Once you've decided you're done with the budget, you'll finish with the summary page, you approve that. Once you have an approved budget, that's what's going to go to the floor for a public hearing on July. Actually, what date is this going to be? Is this on the 8th?
That's correct.
So you'll have a public hearing on the 8th. You'll get input. You can potentially make more changes on the 8th, but again, it requires a supermajority, 5 votes to open up a page again. You'll pass the budget. It has to go into HUD before the 15th. Send it to the mayor. The mayor has a line item veto, and then it gets sent back to you, and you can override the veto. That's the crash course. So my suggestion is we start it Jared can tell our finance chair what pages we're going to start with, and we can move from there unless somebody has a question. Okay, Jared, do you want to know which pages we'd like to start with?
Yep, if you want to start with pages 2 through 11 to open them up.
And what are those, Jared?
That's
Those
the
are
community development block grant.
Yep, community development block grant side of it.
Okay. So page 11 of the community block grant, and that would be also for reference 68 to 77 of the larger packet numbering, just so you have the right pages. So 2 to 11 of the 19 or 68 to 77. So I'd like to call pages 2 to 11 of the proposed community development block grant summary to order for discussion.
I need a second. Second.
Okay, I can move.
I apologize, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. When the finance chair calls the pages, that doesn't require a second and doesn't require a vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll move through sort of page by page. The first page 2 is a description of the revenues in community development. The Federal Aid and Community Development Act is our entitlement allocation from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is a calculation, a formula-driven revenue. Community development income relates to any income-generating activities as part of the CDBG budget. So if we sell property that was previously demolished in past years by CDBG funding, that money now can't go into the general fund. It has to go into the community development income fund. So another smaller source of revenue for the community development fund. Any questions on page 2? All right, moving to page 3. This is a contractual expense with the Binghamton Local Development Corporation and $145,000 for economic development activities and to support the for support efforts for other HUD funded economic development grants. Page 4 is youth programming. This represents a big boost in this year. We have some earmarked youth funding programs, including with the Boys and Girls Club for their Youth After Hours program to continue programming at the club until a later time at night and provide transportation home, as well as funding for the Boys and Girls Club Teen Center, which provides actually jobs to teens who have graduated from some of the younger programs of the Boys and Girls Club. It gives them experience in tutoring and provides an outlet to keep teens at the Boys and Girls Club beyond maybe the years they would normally be there. The YWCA Young Wonders youth programming is a daycare that's run by YWCA. They reached out to the city some months ago expressing some crunch financially that they've been facing, which frankly many daycare providers are facing. They asked for some short-term assistance to stabilize their program, and they're developing a long-term sustainability plan for their finances. With the increase in minimum wage, it's really putting the squeeze on some of the nonprofits that provide that type of funding. The capital program funding was the $500,000 as announced by Mayor David for upgrades to Columbus Park, including new playground amenities, fixing up some of the areas there, improving that park as a neighborhood park, and bringing a lot of the amenities that kids and families see at some of the other city parks to Columbus Park as well. That project is finishing design, and we'll have public input meeting on that once more of a design is known. Moving on to page 5, this is the city's.
Can we question on that?
Right.
Yep.
Sure.
Somebody else want a question?
Okay, yes, this is Councilwoman Riley. So is there a program that is a part of this Columbus Park improvement? Is there an actual activity similar to the teen center and youth centers and or are we really truly doing a park improvement?
It is certainly an improvement to the park. This will fit in with the city's summer fun programming. A lot of times at Columbus Park, there was limited opportunities for youth that are a little bit older, something like the 11 to 14 range. There's obviously the spray pad there, and there's some of the ball fields, but there wasn't really amenities for the little bit older youth. So this will support additional summer fun programming at the site, but it is a capital improvement and it can't be used for other programs.
Okay, so how is that different from a park improvement line that's down under CD public infrastructure?
They're both capital, but this was specific to Columbus Park. It probably is better categorized along with the youth programming.
But it's not a program.
No, it is a capital improvement.
Okay, so at the end of this, we can make motions to move and then we'll have to have it seconded, correct?
You better ask Ken.
Oh, Ken.
Yes, at any time, you can either go through all the pages that have been called so far, or while you're on this page, you can make a motion, get a second, there's a discussion, and then a vote on the motion.
Okay.
Council Riley, do you want to make a motion?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to move the youth capital funding for Columbus Park from the youth programming line to the parks improvement area as a capital improvement. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, point of order. For motions right now, for money to be moved, they can't be moved to another line. They can only be moved to contingency. There has to be a second motion afterward to move it from contingency to another proposed line.
So your motion would be to move the money to contingency.
I'd like to move it to contingency per protocol.
Okay. Now discussion and vote on that motion.
Need a second.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay. It's been seconded. Okay.
Now we have discussion.
It's an attorney question. So it's
Mr. Chairman, yes. At this point, now there's discussion on the motion, yes.
So it's moved to the contingency now, right, Ken?
No.
No.
No,
Discussion on
this is to
the motion, whether
discuss.
to move the money to contingency.
Correct.
It's been moved and seconded. Now we discuss, then we move to a vote.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Do we need a discussion on this, please?
Can I talk?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just, if Sharon would explain again the difference between youth programming and the youth capital program.
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about just categories of funding, right? So, youth programming is a broader category that has both, call it service programming, and then capital program improvements to support youth programming. Just like in human services, that is sort of a broad category. And then we have more specific categories regarding park rangers, opioid addiction recovery, et cetera. So that's really the reason why it's in there. It is capital upgrades specific to youth. We're not doing parks upgrades at Ely Park Golf Course or for walking trails. It's specific to youth improvements, and we've delineated Columbus Park to make it as specific as possible. That's what the money can and only can be used for.
All that?
Thank you.
I'm raising my hand. Okay, so this is Councilwoman Riley again. The reason I'm saying that we need to differentiate our funding is so that we can, at the end of the year, because this starts in January 1, look at how much we've invested towards programming for our youth. Now, telling me that fixing a pad will improve programming for youth is not necessarily so, because an adult can go and use the pad. If we're talking about programs, then we need to say the summer fun program earmarked to increase so many participants, blah, blah, blah. So again, I just want to be consistent in our nomenclature and in our budgeting so that at the end of the year, we are able to say we invested this much in this group in terms of programming. A park is not a program.
Councilor
I
Riley,
think that if you look at our annual budget, you've got different, the cost that the city spends on youth programming, which by the way is more now than it's been in previous administrations. You have a variety of expenses that are across the board that is not necessarily money to a specific nonprofit. We've added, 2 full-time recreation supervisor positions strictly for youth programming. Well, is that a youth program? Well, maybe not, but they're full-time positions that support youth sports and camps within the park. The same will be said for this. This is to support youth programming, and it can be sliced any way you want it, but we want it to be very clear about this isn't for general parks improvements. This is to support specific programs at Columbus Park and new recreation opportunities that do not currently exist.
Well, again, I support, as I mentioned before when we were discussing Rec Park, I support completely upgrading parks so that we can all use them. I love the pad at Columbus. The basketball tournaments are perfect. However, state funds, public facility, any funds used for public facilities needs to be appropriated correctly. And this is just, again, as a newbie here on council, but if we were going to allocate resources to create a summer program for those in proximity to Columbus Park, then I could see that under youth programming, and that's it.
Yep, and that's why we had the youth programming line and then separate youth capital line to make sure that it's delineated, that it's not programming, but that it's actual physical infrastructure.
But it's still under youth programming.
Mr. Chairman.
Other comment on this? Councilman Scringy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can someone reassure the members of council that the $500,000 that's allocated on line 533, 536 entitled Youth Capital Program fits the federal criteria under CDBG?
Yes, Gio, if you're speaking to whether it's an eligible use at Columbus
Correct.
Park, it is, and actually the neighborhood that hosts it and an adjacent neighborhood have 2 of the highest childhood poverty rates in the city of Binghamton.
Thank you.
Other comments on this? I'm sorry, I should be taking, is this Phil's deal? This is not me, right?
Yeah, this is Phil.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if there's no more discussion, we can move toward a vote on the motion. If there's no more discussion.
So we have a motion to move this line to contingency, and it's been seconded, correct?
Yes. Hold on, Councilman Freeman has a comment.
So I pulled up thank you, sorry. I pulled up the press release that was sent out let's see, on June 25th about the $500,000 in upgrades to Columbus Park. Like there was as part of the $650,000 in response to the, in response to the death of George Floyd, pretty much. And it seemed from the press release, it seems like that would be $500,000 that was separate from the CDBG funds. I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting it, it seems like this is sort of being mismarketed, I guess would be the word. I guess my question or comment is, it seems like this $500,000 should be like additionally available, or like if the mayor is pledging $500,000 in response to George Floyd's death, kind of the zeitgeist of everything that's going on, I feel like that should be maybe different from that, or not come from this funding. Does that make sense the way that I'm explaining that? Do you know what I mean? It seems like we're sort of
we're using federal dollars for.
So Aviva, one of the things too, and this was mentioned in the release, is that last year the mayor announced that the city was going to get designers to look at plans. Again, like Rec Park, we applied for funding for this, but we're not successful, meaning that there were plans on the shelf, but no funding to make this reality. This is the funding to make it a reality. That is what's new, and that is what's different. Without this funding, the project doesn't happen. So that's what is new. We have a lot of different plans, but if we don't have the funding, that's what it kind of comes down to at the end of the day. So in meetings with the Change Coalition and some of the organizers of the protests, different Black community leaders, this was identified, and instead of allowing that plan to sit idle, the mayor advanced it to put it into action.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Lee, can you lead us in a vote here on this proposal to move this to contingency?
Yes, if the discussion's over, I can do a full roll call vote.
Call for question.
Okay, so Councilman Scaringi,
Nay.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Nay.
Councilwoman Riley,
Yay, yes. Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Nay.
and President Scanlon. Nay. So that's 4 nays, Scaringi, Resnetti, Strawn, and Scanlon.
Okay.
Okay. Continue with discussion of the pages.
Okay. I'll move on to page 5 here. This is some of the public infrastructure pages. The first line of public infrastructure is the milling and paving of streets in CDBG designated areas, which encompasses most of the city. Parts of the west side, parts of the south side do not, but pretty much all of the city. This is to support milling and paving in those areas. The north side Chow grocery store, which is fully funded, we have a $5,000 sort of capital contingency for that project to support any last minute items that come up as they get under full operation in their first 6 to 12 months, like any startup would. We just wanted to have that available. The capital program set aside is $21,000 for city projects that are within CDBG eligible communities, or excuse me, neighborhoods that have different capital requirements. This is supported of a variety of different things, from the Lee Barta Community Center expansion to I know there's some residents that are looking to see improved signals at pedestrian crossings, etc. So it's sort of a wide variety of things, but still has to support low to mod income individuals and neighborhoods, seniors, or individuals with disabilities. The human services capital set aside is new from a few years ago. This provided $65,000 in funding for nonprofits who have capital needs, who need to repave a parking lot to make it ADA accessible, who need to replace some windows for energy efficiency or a boiler. This is a pot of money that a lot of times they can't get because they are service providers, but they have capital needs and own buildings just like everyone else. So this provides them some support to do that. And then the last one was park security improvements at CDBG eligible parks. This is in the past, I think we've talked about security cameras being for like on-street poles, which were for use by BPD. Our focus this year is on security improvements, including lighting and cameras, actually within the city parks that would be necessary for this year. So this is not security cameras that would be used like on the street as we've purchased in the past. Moving on to page 6, anything that's highlighted is a chargeback for the 2021 budget, meaning that the city provides services that are eligible to be paid by CDBG funding. Code enforcement is one of them. And so $125,000 in our code enforcement costs would be covered by the CDBG budget. Page 7, demolition. This is for blight removal, which is a national objective of HUD. $196,000 as part of our annual demolition program to clear blighted properties. We look to, with those blighted properties, number one, restore green space when we can, if it's near a flood control area or some of the more rural areas of the city. We look to encompass it in our side lot program, which has been very successful, or like we did on the north side of the city of Binghamton, under construction right now, the corner of Liberty and in Virgil Street, is the homeless housing project, which was a conglomerate of a bunch of different demolished properties that the city was able to get, and we're advancing a project for homeless individuals. Moving forward to the CDBG housing rehab. Again, there's the highlight for the chargeback in housing services. In this year, if you compare it to previous years, there's been a significant decrease in salary chargebacks, which is probably about as low as we can go. That allowed us to invest more in the capital programs that I've sort of previously described. That housing services at $35,000 is one of them. Our home ownership and rehab program, which supports first-time home buyers getting into properties that may have code issues, giving them some money for closing costs and initial rehab. The Binghamton Homeownership Academy, which is run through, it's a group on the south side, the name's escaping me, Metro Interfaith, which is a requirement of the first-time home buyer program that they run for us, and it's actually mandated by HUD. And finally, on this CDBG housing rehab is the Senior Home Repair Program. This has been a widely successful program that's run through the First Ward Action Council that assists senior homeowners in getting the repairs done to keep them in their home as anchors of these neighborhoods. So something as simple as fixing a front step that's gone unrepaired, fixing a window, and some of the larger projects like replacing a hot water heater. But the intent of this is for a small investment, the city can keep folks in their 70s and 80s at home safely and keep them as anchors of the neighborhood. Moving on to the human services side of things on page 9, you'll again see that we've has a chargeback for the city's park ranger program, which is done in the parks every summer. We have a number of different human services activities. The totality of the human services budget is at the cap of what we can spend, which is 15% of our actual CDBG allocation, meaning that we can't put any more money in human services, so this maxes us out. The 116 and a little change, that is our competitive human service allocation every year that funds a variety of programs from senior healthcare counseling to vines, et cetera. And then below that, you'll see 45,000 for opioid addiction recovery program with Fairview Recovery that provides an intensive care manager to manage individuals that have been discharged from short-term detox and the period between they can get a long care stay at a detox facility. That was identified as a critical gap. Mayor David worked with Fairview to essentially event the program a few years ago, and we're funding that again this year. The MHAST Mobile Crisis Services was mentioned in the news release we talked about before, to have trained and licensed mental health professionals respond concurrently with BPD on mental health crises in the city of Binghamton. We had an existing partnership which was signed this year with MHAST. So this new funding will allow for additional licensed professionals to respond when requested. Moving on here, I think we've got a couple more pages. I'll try to go through this quick. Again, support for various planning activities to charge back through our general planning. 7,000 pays for our GIS services, which is a contract through Broome County GIS. Moving to page 11, these are just various administrative fees through the administration of our CDBG program, chargebacks for corporation counsel, chargebacks for financial department, personnel and IT, and then admin services, which would be Steve Carson and his administration of the CDBG budget. So given that all of those pages encompass the CDBG budget, my recommendation would be for council to vote to approve those pages, and then we can move on to the next section of the budget.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move pages 2 through 11.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Lee, can you give us a roll call vote on the Community Development Block Grant, pages 2 through 11?
Yes. Councilman Scarinci?
Aye.
Councilwoman Resnetti?
Aye.
Woman Riley?
Nay.
Councilwoman Friedman?
Aye.
Councilman Burns?
Aye.
Councilman Strawn?
Aye.
And President Scanlon.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 nay. Riley.
The next set of pages we should open is in the home fund, which are pages 13 through 16.
Okay, let's open pages 13 through 16, which is the home fund of the part of the grant for discussion.
Okay, starting on page 13, a little background about home funding. It's another category of entitlement that we get from HUD through our federal entitlement. This supports activities related to housing, specifically in the city of Binghamton. So again, on the main page, the first page here, 13, just shows the revenue. Again, the department income and the federal entitlement. This is the same as it happens every year. On page 14, this is funding to support our home rehab program. So this is for low and moderate income homeowners to get funding to do various rehab projects in the city of Binghamton. There is a long waiting list for these projects. They're inspected by our housing staff and done through a list of qualified contractors. So this is for a single family homeowner or a two-family homeowner to apply to the city and get some funds to fix up their home. On page 15 is home administration services. This pays for our different housing administrators, the folks that are inspecting the homes, doing the closings, et cetera. And on page 16, we have the Home Shodo, which is a community housing development organization. These are the projects you see with the First Ward Action Council and SEP and Family Enrichment Network. These are certified community housing development organizations that are eligible for this home funding. Previous projects the city has supported were that homeless housing program, First Ward Action Councils, north of Maine, Crandall Street rehabilitation. We've also provided money for the North Side Canal Plaza program as well through this funding. The reason why $275,000 was picked is that in any one project, that's the max that we could allot. And typically we see about 1.5 projects on average per year. If there's no questions, I'd ask that pages 13 through 16 be approved.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve pages 13 through 16.
Second.
Lee, can you take a vote on pages 13 through 16 of the home fund, for the home fund under HUD?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi?
Aye.
Councilwoman Resnetti?
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman?
Aye.
Councilman Burns?
Aye.
Councilman Strawn?
Aye.
President Scanlon?
Aye.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, and then the final set of pages before we get to the summary pages would be 18 and 19 to open them. Councilman Strong, if you want to open those pages.
Yeah, please, here, go ahead and open for discussion pages 18 and 19 of the emergency solutions grant under the HUD money.
Okay, sound like a broken record here, but this is another category of funding from the federal government. This is tied not to community development or to housing, but specifically to homeless programs. And in this case, we have the federal entitlement on page 18, which just reflects the amount of money we're getting. And then on page 19 is the allocation of funding. You'll see again the chargeback for admin services. And in the case of ESG, as mandated by HUD, the city needs to receive a recommendation from the continuum of care, which is the centralized point of entry for all homeless individuals. I should say individuals experiencing homelessness within our region. And we took their recommendations as we do almost each year for different, the two basically program categories, which is emergency shelter and street outreach, and rapid rehousing and homeless prevention. So this was the recommendation that the COC made to the city of Binghamton.
Mr. Chairman, motion to move pages 18 and 19.
Second.
Lee, could you take a vote for us on the approval of pages 18 and 19 of the emergency services, emergency solutions grant?
Yes. Councilman Scaringi?
Aye.
Councilwoman Resnetti?
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman?
Aye.
Councilman Burns?
Aye.
Councilman Strawn?
Aye.
President Scanlon?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And the final part of it would be to open up the summary pages, which would be page 1, page 12, and page 17. And there wouldn't, this is just a reflection of what is in the individual lines.
Okay. Do we have discussion on these as well?
I don't think there, I don't have anything more to plan.
We have to officially open them and vote on these as well, even though we voted on the other ones?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we'll open up pages 1, 12, and 17, which are the summary pages of the Community Development Block Grant, Home Fund, and Emergency Solutions Grant respectively.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve pages 1, 12, and 17, which are the summary pages for everything we've just reviewed.
Second.
Lee, can you do a vote for us on the summary pages 1, 12, and 17?
Yeah. Councilman Scarpelli,
Aye.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye, but I just want to point out that it says youth programming, 585,000. It doesn't say anything about that other word we used, but aye.
Councilman Strawn
Aye.
and President Scanlon.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, council. And as Ken mentioned, the public hearing for this will be on the 8th. I'd ask the city council also, if possible, vote on the budget at that time too. If not, we'll have to schedule a special meeting because we need this plan to HUD prior to July 15th. So just keep that timeline in mind. If anyone has any other questions, available all week.
Can I make one other comment? I think one of the council persons said that we're talking about like next year's budget as in January 1 to December 31. Actually, the HUD is a fiscal year that runs September 1 to August 31st. That's why it goes in on July 15th.
Thank you for that clarification.
And thanks, Jared. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a little preview of the budget, but we're getting there.
All right, thank you, guys. So now we're on to discussion about the murals. We'll do these one at a time. So we'll start with the discussion about the murals. Let me start off by saying, so in 2010, City Council decided to take away from the mayor, the mayor's ability to do what he wanted with public space, public property. And when they did that, there was no process in place. So I took a step back, and it was a request to paint a mural on Wall Street from a local artist, Kristen Mann. So I took a step back and thought we should develop a process where anybody can, this is open to anybody. Obviously, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be open up to people that want to paint a mural. So we need to develop a process here. And let me start out by saying, so I took some of the things that the mayor and apparently the mayor and Kristen Mann agreed to and wove them into some thoughts here. So we can discuss these, we move, nothing's in stone. We can certainly have discussion about these, but so I said the murals will be strictly on Wall Street because apparently that's what the mayor and this Kristen Mann agreed on. So we can discuss that. If anybody has discussion on that, we can certainly talk about that.
Mr. President, can I chime in for 1 second, please?
Sure.
I just want to make sure everybody understands you're not being asked to approve a particular mural at any given time. What you're being asked to do is create a process that is content neutral regarding time, place, and manner. So once you decide that, we're going to allow murals on streets under these time, place, and manner restrictions, right? Then anyone can apply for that and it will pertain to them. We will apply those standards to any application, right? So you don't actually decide whether or not you want mural A or mural B. You create the content neutral standards. It goes to the city clerk. The city clerk will update the event permit or do something along those lines. And then they will issue permits or authorizations based on the standards that you agree upon.
Councilwoman Riley has a comment.
Yes. So let's just clarify. There can be two processes One, to develop a process moving forward. And then as council, we have the ability to temporarily override the current ordinance as we did with the cigarette ordinance based upon the legislation, correct?
But there's no process in place.
No. Let me,
There's no
I mean,
process in place.
let me have, so can we go about this in 2 phases?
No, when it came to the smoking, there was an ordinance that specifically gave you the authority to make that determination on a application basis. That's not what happened. That's not what happened here. There's nothing in that ordinance that says that you can decide on individual applications. If you would like to do an ordinance that give yourself the permitting authority, then you still have to create the criteria. What are you going to review to make that determination?
So, Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question on that, but didn't we recently vote to suspend the right-of-way applications for outdoor seating for restaurants? That seems like kind of the same thing, right? Where there's been, city code in place where normally restaurant owners have to apply for an outdoor seating permit, and we voted to temporarily suspend those regulations, given the fact that right now businesses are struggling, in light of the situation, we voted to suspend those.
Yeah, that suspension was not project specific. It applied to any outdoor seating that fit that criteria.
During a time period. So if we were to move forward a piece of legislation that said from July 1 to July 30th of 2020, we will hereby allow the blah, blah, blah on Wall Street based upon articles submitted June 11th, June 12th. Whatever we put in that override would then give the guidance to move forward once we have the vote, correct?
No, because now you're deciding on a specific application.
Okay. So why wasn't this shared so we can come with the process in place opposed to moving and waiting and requesting guidance?
I told Councilman Burns about this, a little bit about this last special meeting, and he said he's going to share it with you. So if he did that,
I did share where you said that somebody wanted to apply to put some other lives matter.
Councilman Burns, I said to you that I said we should develop a process, and you agreed with that. And I said,
yeah, and I did share that. I did share that with Angela. That
you asked me if you could share with Angela. I said sure. So I don't know what.
But that was not the stopgate. That's not what I received. And you have my email address. So if that was the process,
we got to develop a process before we can approve anything. That's what we're doing.
But we had 2 weeks to talk about this.
I just decided, I was coming up with the idea how we're going to do this, and we have to develop a process. If you listen to Ken, it's not about the project, it's about a process.
But again, okay, I get it, I hear you. But if it is based upon developing a process, we could have done that post the emails that went back and forth the week of July 18th.
The timing, I don't answer the timing on this thing. I just thought we should develop a process. And we, by the way, according to the mayor, Kristen Mann and the mayor agreed this would be discussed tonight. And we never went off this date. So it is being discussed tonight. By the way, if we can get this, if we get this approved tonight or get these process done tonight, I'd like to vote on this on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think it is the parameters for doing this are not overly complicated. And I think you can agree on something. Hopefully you can agree on something tonight and it can be passed on Wednesday.
Okay.
So because from what I heard, that Kristen Mann was looking to have this done in the middle of July. And by the way, if we get this done on Wednesday, she still have time to get, when her parameters to get this project done.
Okay, so do we have a skeleton? I mean, what are you looking for in terms of developing?
I'm gonna read down a list here, and I just put some thoughts together we can talk about. So I have a list in my mind, but like I said, it's not carved in stone. We certainly can discuss it.
Did you email that out?
I did not mail email to anybody. It's in my mind. That's all it is. Councilman Freeman.
Thank you. I understand the need to develop a process, but I don't feel like that was reflected in the agenda, so I feel a little bit blindsided, like
Well, okay, the other option is we can not do the process tonight. We can allow you two to get time to review a process. That we're gonna delay the project, which I was not looking to do.
Yeah, no, I don't want to delay the project, but I just,
What's
you know,
what's wrong with talking about the process tonight and finalizing the
oh,
process?
no, that's fine. I just wish that I had time. I didn't realize that we were going to be discussing the process tonight, so I didn't come up with any ideas before.
It's about transparency. Again, I say that every
You think-
week, every 2 weeks.
You feel I'm hiding this.
No, I just
Well,
don't know.
Does Ken or anyone have a idea on a process that we can look at?
Okay, yeah, can I make a suggestion? Why don't you start going through some of the questions? And I think they'll be fairly straightforward, and I hope you can move forward by Wednesday.
This is what I put together. So I started with the murals will be allowed on Wall Street. The murals will be completed in 2 days, because this is again what Kristen Mann told the mayor. She needed 2 days to chalk it out the first day and paint it the second day. So we're going with that again. The murals should be painted on the weekends from dawn to dusk, because that's the least intrusive, and if people are gonna volunteer, they probably can do it on the weekends. The mural, this is my idea now, and you certainly can talk about this. The mural will remain in the street not to exceed 10 days. We can certainly talk about that. The painting used on the murals, it must be approved by DPW, so it's allowed to be washed off at the end of when we decide the mural should last for. A rendering of the mural must be submitted with the application, which will be to the clerk. All renderings must be approved by Corporation Council. I had an idea for a fee on here. I'm not sold on a fee. We can talk about the fee during the budget process if we want to add something in. So they're my thoughts. Again, we can talk about it and certainly come up with something, because it's not complicated. These are a few ideas I had. Yes.
But I guess I'm just a little bit confused, because everything that you said seemed to be project specific. And I thought we decided
It's
that.
it's not project specific. It's a process where people can apply to put a mural on the street. That'll be project specific. This is a process.
So what would happen is that would apply to all. You'd be limiting it to Wall Street. You'd say anybody who puts one in could only do it for 2 days on a weekend. Paint would have to be approved by DPW. It can be taken off at a certain time. And we already have an event permit. We already have permits. So the clerk would really just incorporate this into one of the permits. If you met those criteria, you could do a mural on a street.
Can I ask a question, Mr. President?
Sure.
Did I hear you say 10 days?
Again, Councilor Resnick, this is all up to discussion. These are my thoughts. There's nothing is concrete here until we decide it is at the end of this process. So I certainly am open to a longer time that a mural can be done on the street.
I would hope that it would be for a little longer time than 10 days.
Okay. What days are there? What days the other council people have in mind as far as how long a mural should be on the street?
I mean, does it have to have a limit? Could it just be until the paint wears?
Well, I think if we're allowing people to do this, I think you should have a limit so somebody else would have a chance to put something down. There's been another request that's submitted to the clerk's office. Councilwoman Riley.
So if we put this process in place, the ultimate decider moving forward would be the city clerk.
Corporation Council.
Okay.
The city clerk will make sure the application is filled out correctly.
And so
The
Corporation Council,
would certainly review what's, so nothing obscene is written on the street, nothing. And obscene is defined by Corporation Council, not by me or you.
Well, I mean, things like obscenity are defined by the law.
Right.
so another question. On St. Patrick's Day, don't we paint the street green, a stripe?
Yes.
So what is the process for the green stripe?
I don't, it's washable paint, it wears off.
No, what is the process?
I don't know.
No, that's a city project. That's not the public painting on a street. That's the city using its street. The ordinance that we're referring to from whatever it was, 2010 or 11, was the public's use of city property.
So the DPW paints the green line.
Yes, DPW does the green line.
And I think the Columbus Day, the Italian, I'm
The
so
red
Irish, I don't know what color they use, to tell you the truth. But I think
The red line. The red line.
Red line, yeah. And what about as far as which day it can be done? I mean, Wall Street, I walk down there once in a while. I park there. Really nobody, there's really nobody there. We wouldn't, if they wanted to do it during the week, you're really not stopping any traffic, but.
If there's student housing down there and they park down there, don't they?
Yes, when the students are in session, that whole, the upper part of that building is all student housing.
Oh, I see.
Plus, I think if it's on the weekend, that gives folks, more people an opportunity to participate because they're not at work potentially.
But it's paper parking on the street there. I guess you gotta, to get in the garage, no, you don't have to go that way to get in the garage. But anyway, doesn't matter.
You're right, Councilman Burns, you can drive behind Boscov's and get out that way. I think you're still on the street, you're still on Wall Street if you're doing that. Again, if it's decided amongst us that it could be during the week, it doesn't matter to me. Councilwoman Riley. Sorry.
Thank you. So again, without putting a lot of emphasis on the structure, someone could put something inflammatory on the street or an application into Corporation Council.
Define inflammatory.
I'll just say, what if one of my students didn't like my grade and they said, Angela Riley is the worst grader on earth. They put it in, I'm being facetious, but I'm just using something hypothetical. They give it to Corporation Council, they have the backing of the entire university. Could that move forward?
That's a question for Ken, not for me.
Ken, without defining?
Well, remember, it has to be content neutral.
That's what
municipalities do not have the right to really determine content. Once you allow this, you're allowing content neutral public use of the property subject to time, place, and manner restrictions. The courts have placed some restrictions, obscenity, being an example. Right, from free speech, you can't yell fire, in a movie theater unless there's a fire. Free speech doesn't cover that. So if somebody wanted to take out a personal, paint a personal mural as an attack against an individual, I mean, we would look at it, but at the moment, I would assume that they could do so.
Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you. So I guess who gets to decide what is content neutral? That seems kind of subjective.
That'd be Corporation Council. I assume that's Ken.
Well, that's based on years of court decisions, and there may be one where it's uncertain.
So it's based on precedent, like legal precedent?
Yes, for example, Councilwoman Riley's, question that, she's a bad grader. Off the top of my head, without doing any research, I suspect that would be acceptable. If it said Councilman Riley's a bad grader, you should kill her? Yeah, I'm not going to allow that.
That would be.
I've heard she's a very good grader, by the way. Just
Thank you, Joe.
But you know, that's a fairly easy example. If you're threatening somebody, no, that's not going. That's content that courts have already determined is not acceptable. But if you're making a comment about a public official, that probably is acceptable.
Gio has a question. Waiting for a while.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess I'll work backwards here. I was looking on the city's website today, earlier today, with regard to the section that deals with permits. And Ken, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but with outdoor cafe permits, isn't there a requirement by the clerk's office to get written permission from nearby impacted residents and business owners? So for example, when the Colonial put tables outside in front of their restaurant along the sidewalk on Court Street, which I thought they did a great job with, and it circled all the way around and actually curved onto Washington, did the owner of Saul Stearns have to sign a disclaimer or sign a statement of support regarding that?
Yes. But that really was part of the package of allowing this expansion of outdoor space. As a general rule, all of the outdoor space was always confined to the front of the restaurant in question.
Right. So my question here is then, in taking with that consistency, there are small businesses and residents on Wall Street. Would that be required there as well?
I don't think so, and I will tell. I don't think they're really consistent, because on the one hand, you're putting tables in front of somebody else's business. Here you're just using the public property, and I think this is more akin to, for example, parades. We don't get the permission of everybody who are on Court Street before we have a parade.
Makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
That's an opportunity to use public space for, and sometimes private purposes, like a holiday parade. So no, I don't think that would be the case.
Thank you, Ken.
I have a question. Aren't
Joe, hold on one second. So Lee just told me the meeting end was going to be 8 o'clock, so everybody's going to have to log back in, okay? We're not ending the meeting, but the meeting's going to end here like in a couple minutes.
Okay.
So you have to log back in to get back in the meeting.
Okay.
So we didn't go away when it cuts off. We didn't go away, all right?
So if it cuts out, I'm sorry, just give it a few minutes and we'll try and re-invite everybody back in, okay?
So go ahead, Joe, you can start.
Yeah. Okay, so putting up a flag is sending a message. So we put up the Irish flag, we put up the gay pride flag. We're saying that gay lives matter, Irish lives matter. We put up the Italian flag. So we're sending a message. So isn't that the same thing as this mural, that the city decides which flag, the mayor decides which flag he's going to put up? And what is the difference there? We're on city property. We're sending a message that we're supporting these people for their parade that day. And there's some people that don't even have a parade. I think the Ukrainians or somebody. We have all kinds of flags that go up. So what's the difference?
Are we getting cut off?
No, keep moving, keep talking.
No, Councilman, that is a fair question. One of the things is that, people put in their flag applications to the mayor's office, and the mayor, agrees to put up various flags on a city flagpole. I don't think it's it's necessarily the same thing, but I think it is in the same genre. And if it's something that we think needs to have more of a process than it's had in the past, maybe that's something we need to do.
Or make this less the process. They're putting this on city council, so the mayor decides which flag goes up. Why can't we decide which mural goes up?
Joe, let me answer that. I would hate to be in a position to sit here and decide what mural belongs on a street. I think it's a legal question a lot. You know what I mean? So
I will tell you, I have told mayors in the past that when they decide to put up flags, basically they have said, I am now agreeing to put up whatever flag somebody gives to me if it represents, some group.
Yeah, Talk with Tony. Remember, Talk with Tony was before before the WNBF show that's on now, the Bob show. So Talk with Tony told Matt Ryan, I want you, because Matt was the first one to put up the gay pride. He says, I want a straight flag put up. Matt says, okay, give me one, I'll put it up. But that's my point. Like, it's a message. You're sending out a message by putting up a flag, but okay. Anyway.
No, and I will tell you, if council had not passed this ordinance in, I forget, 2010 or 11, right, we would be saying the exact same thing to the mayor, saying that you can allow this to happen, you can make that determination, but by doing so, we should have some standards as to who's going to be able to use it, and once you open it up, it's going to be opened up for everyone. That applies to the flag. How this all came about was because the second floor gallery was being allowed to be used for some public purposes. Right? You'll notice in the ordinance, it has a specific provision regarding the second floor gallery. Right? Because in the past, anybody could apply to use the second floor gallery, and there really weren't any standards. So part of this is council created some standards. So I agree with you with the flag, but I do think that for at least as long as I've been here, the answer is if somebody wants you to put up the flag, you need to put up the flag unless it violates some other ordinance or restriction, for example, obscenity.
Right.
And I have told mayors that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there when they did the gay pride flag, and I remember telling them that at that time as well,
Mm-hmm.
which was fun.
Do we want to continue to develop this process? Let me ask City Council. Do we want to come back and visit this in 2 weeks or have a special meeting?
Well, can we say that she can go ahead and do her mural and then we'll decide on the process?
Yes.
Make a special dispensation for this one mural?
I think we got to develop a process first. I don't think we should do that. That's my opinion. We could have a straw vote on that right now if you want.
Yeah.
So Ken, we could have a straw vote to decide if we're going to develop this process or let the artist paint what she requested from the mayor. Can we do that?
I have no basis just to vote separately to allow somebody to do it without, some kind of process. My opinion is once you do that, you have now opened it up to everybody without any particular restriction.
What if?
So here's the question. So how do we do this? We tell this artist, go ahead and paint, take a week, take a month, do whatever. There's no rules. I don't think we should do that.
Right.
No, and you now created the precedent. There are no rules. I honestly think that, Council President, the like 4 fairly straightforward things that you asked, if people just agree on that, I can draft legislation for Wednesday night authorizing the clerk to incorporate those into, the event permit process so that this can move forward.
Well, I think we should probably do that. We should.
Right.
So here's what's up for discussion. This is in my mind, all right? Wall Street, I said the temporary paint, the thing that would be up for discussion is how long the mural should be on the street for. I said 10 days. Councilwoman Resident said that wasn't long enough. So do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
whether it's 10 days or 30 days or 45 days or whatever, what would happen theoretically? I know the process is so other people theoretically could also apply under the same rules. Would they like, let's say nobody else applied, would they theoretically reapply if they wanted to keep it on there or to put it back on there? Or how would that work if they wanted? What would actually happen at the end of the period? Would it automatically DPW come in and black it over, or?
I think that's a question that Ken could probably help us answer.
Well, I think one of the things that the council president noted is the DPW is going to have to approve the type of paint. Because no matter what it is, it has to be washable paint. So at some point, whether it's 10 days, 15 days, 20, 30 days, it's going to start to wash out. Right? Now, Councilman, your question is, can I just keep renewing my application so that I can keep painting the same thing over and over again if there's no intervening application? Right? I think that's something else you could decide is that, nothing should be more than 30 days and, you can't reapply for the same one in 3 months, 6 months, whatever that may be. That may be something we didn't discuss.
All right, so Councilman Marcinetti, what would your recommendation be for how long? I said 10 days, you said it's not long enough. What's your thoughts on how long it should be done there?
Yeah, I don't know that I have like a magic, time frame, but my gosh, I would think that anything less than 30 days is probably not long enough. I mean, people are going to go through this exciting process, right? I mean, they're going to put their heart and soul in it, and they're going to create this mural. And so I just feel like 10 days is not enough. I don't know what the right time frame is, but I don't know, 30 days.
I could certainly, you could easily persuade me on that. I threw out 10 days, but I could certainly agree to 30 days.
I like 30 days.
All right. Any other comments on how many days of painting should be down there? The mural.
I wonder, 30 days seems more appropriate to me. I also wonder if at the end, I'm just thinking logistically, that at the end of whatever time frame it is, that we would, oh, sorry, I'm distracted by my echo. If then DPW would have to come and black it out, or if we could just if it's washable paint, let it kind of.
That's what Ken just said. If there's no other applications out there, we certainly could let it sit there.
Yeah.
But I think you have to leave that up to DPW on some level.
Yeah.
Based on how it looks and how much it's been washed away. Is there another application? It's just saying at the end of 30 days, DPW can remove it. Not that they have to.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, 30 days seems more appropriate.
I think a photograph of a decaying mural could go sort of online and be detrimental to the artist, So I like the idea of blacking it out before it takes on some sort of ugly, like a snowstorm is beautiful until it gets, the plows come and the street ruin it, the cars ruin it.
There's a paint out there. It's a water-based paint. I talked to DPW this morning that they can scrub off there. So if it's fading, they certainly can scrub it off there.
I would suggest saying that, the city, i.e. DPW, would not remove it any sooner than 30 days. But Councilman, I don't think that precludes the artist from calling up the city and saying, hey, it's rained on and off. Just sign an email. Would you please scrub it?
Right.
I mean, that to me is the artist. What I'm doing is precluding the city from taking any action to remove it before then, right, without their consent.
I like that very much.
And also, can I add, I think it should be 30 days from the completion of the mural.
Sure.
Not from the
That makes
start
sense.
date.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there other discussion on this? All right, Lee.
Just the timeline?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, just the timeline?
Well,
or all of
the things I threw out there. I could read them
Okay.
again if you want me to.
Well, I have another comment. I think that dictating that a mural has to be in a certain area, I think seems a little bit limiting to me. Because I guess it would depend, I mean, we're thinking specifically of a mural on the street, and so that's why Wall Street was chosen, because it's kind of tends to be a low traffic street. But I think that seems, there might be another mural request that comes to us that might be more placed elsewhere in the city.
Ken, we can certainly adjust this process later on in life, right?
Well, right now, you're just talking about street murals.
Right.
That's all we're discussing. You know, we're not talking about murals on buildings or anything else. That would be a different topic.
No, but you might, I was just saying, it could be another street, like maybe the people down on Leroy Street want to do a St. Pat's mural in front of the church or something.
I certainly think that deciding which streets you think are appropriate is something that council can do. I think that the council president's suggesting that, well, let's approve Wall Street now. Doesn't mean that a month from now, 3 months from now, you might say, all right, now that we do have a little more time, we can decide here are these 4 other streets that may be similar.
Yeah. So we could adjust that later on, right, Ken?
Yes.
Okay.
But I just thought that may end up being, that may end up being too long of a conversation, and you won't get it done by Wednesday.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I'd like to get this process in place, like I said, so Kristen Mann can keep on the schedule she requested.
So we're saying at minimum, Wall Street is an acceptable place to put them.
Wall Street's the only place to put them as of right now.
Okay.
Until we talk about it later on.
But we can, okay. Gotcha.
Other discussion on this?
All right, everyone good with 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, to do the work? Okay, and for the moment, no fee, you'll discuss that during the budget, or do you want to do a fee?
I think we discussed that during the budget. As long as you get the application filled out with the clerk, I'm fine with that if everybody else is. No fee.
Yeah, I'd say no fee for right now. So we figure that out.
Normally, you do fees as part of the annual budget.
Okay.
And also, it seems like a service, to beautify.
Let them do it, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other discussion, we'll vote on that on Wednesday. The pending legislation, just look at the pending legislation. If you have any questions on that, bring it up now. Otherwise, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
No, there were two pieces. Two.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wait, so that's
I'm
the.
sorry,
voting
Council
on.
President, Councilwoman Freeman, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt before we go to the next thing. So Lee, I'll have to do an RL, proposing legislation to create these parameters. Lee will just ask everybody, or everybody now can say, yes, I'm willing to sign that. And then I'll draft legislation for Wednesday night. But right now, there's no RL to support it. It was a discussion item. So Lee will have to circulate that. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Okay.
Okay. It's an RL from City Council President, so it's not the mayor, it's not me, it's not Chuck.
Okay, do you want him to get the approval on the RL from us now? Whoever wants.
Well, if you'd just like to verify that who wants to be on the RL, it just makes our job a little easier.
Joe Burns will be on it.
I got it. Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
I don't want to complicate the issue. Is there anything that we should consider as part of this process that surrounds the 2 days? Because the 2 days themselves could become like a little event in and of itself, which I think would be totally fine and be really neat. But I just didn't know if there was any concerns or any, I don't even know if I'm crafting an actual question here, but is there anything else to be concerned? If somebody's getting a permit for a event or whatever, it almost seems like the 2 days themselves could become its own little thing, which is good. I just throwing it out there if there's any part of this process that we should make of it, or just let the 2 days happen organically or they happen.
Councilman, is this a generic concern or is this a COVID-19 concern?
I guess it was more generic, but now that you mention it, I guess it could be COVID-19, but.
Certainly we would tell people they need to, be respectful, wear masks, practice social distancing, do these things. One of the other things that I apologize that I should have mentioned One of the things that we generally ask volunteers to do if they're doing, projects on city property is we get written waivers from the people who are doing.
Right, so that, yeah, that would be, that's a good point. That's what I was asking, stuff like that. Is there
Okay, yeah, so that's something else I would probably incorporate. That's something we already do for most projects on city property, but I can incorporate it into this as well. Councilwoman, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want to go to the next topic before you knew that you really needed to sign this out in order to get legislation for Wednesday.
Okay.
Councilman Freeman, I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And so just to check, so this is for
For you
this
now.
RL is like for now, but we could change the parameters.
Later on, yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. In terms of this specific mural, there was an RL that was submitted. I know Kristen is tuned in right now to the meeting. There was an RL and a proposal that was submitted. I don't know why that wasn't included in the agenda, but basically it was sent to all the city council people. In light of what is happening right now across the nation, there are a lot of cities that have commissioned these Black Lives Matter street murals just to affirm that we, as the city of Binghamton, acknowledge the fact that Black lives do matter. And I thought that the proposal was really thorough. It's a local Black artist who does a lot for the community. I've worked with Kristen in my day job professionally, and I think this would be a really amazing thing that we could do to show that we are supportive of our Black residents who, on a national scale, feel like they are consistently told that their lives don't matter. So I think this can be a really good step for the city of Binghamton to take. And I know, like I said, Kristen is tuned in, so I don't know if she can call in and answer any questions.
We don't have that process right now.
We
but
don't?
We don't.
Okay.
That's a Wednesday process.
Even to present, because I know she was the one who sent the RL in.
No, we can't. There's no, she wasn't on the agenda. You were on the agenda for this RL.
Okay.
This just the rules, that's all.
Right.
Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Riley.
So I stand with Councilwoman Freeman on this resolution. I think it makes a statement for the city of Binghamton as well as the council members in terms of recognizing all that has happened across the country and knowing that we stand together as one voice. I don't know if everyone received the resolution. Did everyone receive the resolution?
The mural.
Oh, we're still on the mural? No.
No,
Right.
no. No.
You're on the resolution.
I thought you were talking about your RL now.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was talking about the mural, because I thought we had, it's kind of the same pitch, to be honest. It's like on brand for both, but
We're on to your RL now. Can we go on your RL, please?
okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
no,
but didn't we, did we vote to approve this, the Black Lives Matter mural?
We're voting on a process on Wednesday. It's a process. It's not voting on Black Lives Matter, it's voting on a process. We're not voting on content, we're voting on process.
So then the mural, okay, so now I'm confused actually, because I thought we said that Kristen was going to be able to complete the mural in the middle of July.
I was assuming we can vote on this and get this passed on Wednesday, so she'll be able to move forward with her mural.
Okay, so the RL for the mural is like how we've been doing it.
RL for the mural. There was no RL for the mural.
It was submitted.
Oh, it was, sorry.
Yes, it was.
Okay, I
It
didn't
was,
see.
that's why I was confused why it wasn't on the agenda.
I did see that, you're right.
Yeah.
With budgeted funds, which is why we wanted to bring that up.
Without her being on the agenda, she can't call it and talk.
Okay,
That's just the rules.
okay. I was under the
That's-
impression that she would be on the agenda because of the RL, but so anyway, so since the RL was submitted, can we vote? Can we sign it out to vote on it on Wednesday in addition to the processes?
Ken, help me out.
No, you're not voting on individual murals.
But,
That's outside the scope of your authority.
okay,
So
so I'm just
Kristen-
confused because the RL and the proposal were both submitted, and now we're being told that we can't vote on it because it was omitted from the agenda, even though it was submitted. So what was supposed to have happened to make sure that it was on the agenda?
I don't know who submitted an RL to approve that specific mural.
It was, I have it in my email. Kristen submitted an RL to all of city council and the clerk's office.
The RL was never brought to the floor, Ken, correct?
Well, correct. This is something that I have no idea what city council does. I don't know that city council has any obligation to accept RLs from the public and to discuss them or not. Usually that's up to the city council president. But there is no, you're not voting to approve a particular mural.
So then how can we make sure that this goes forward? I know Kristen had spoken to Mayor David, who said, yes, we all responded to the original, or maybe not we all, but multiple city council members responded to the email saying, yes, we're in favor of this. And then I think Councilman Burns asked, how can we get this forward? So I guess I'm just confused about this process. What should have been done differently to make sure that this mural can happen?
Isn't it it's kind of a moot point. Are we trying to do a process that's a simple process? She's going to be able to do it. Lee's going to be able to approve it. Ken's going to be able to approve it. No fee. Done. Like it's going to cruise through if we can vote on it Wednesday. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's kind of a.
No,
Like
Phil, we're back to like Ken keeps talking, we're gonna prove the process.
That's what I'm saying, but we're doing it's a point in the sense that if we approve the process Wednesday, Kristen can go on Thursday to, theoretically to Lee's office and it's gonna go, that's what I'm saying. If we approve the process.
She could go to Lee's office Thursday morning and get this finalized, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Then it'll just go, yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's a.
You can't vote on Wednesday because we're not voting on the project. Again, we're voting on the process.
Right, but if we give her the process by Wednesday, then she can use the process theoretically Thursday and have it up and approved. Everybody's gonna approve it quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we, in general, murals do not have to go through city council.
That's what we're talking about, correct, yes.
Okay, so once we vote on this process on Wednesday, Kristen can go. I feel like she's been bounced around,
Well, this is the final step then. I mean,
Okay, so she has to resubmit the proposal that she already submitted to the clerk again.
No. No.
I mean, the clerk already has her request. If there's additional information that we need, we can ask for it.
Okay, so after this, then it's up to whose discretion to approve this.
It's not discretionary. If you comply with the terms and conditions that you approved, the clerk has to approve it.
Okay, so.
That's again, you don't approve content except for very limited circumstances. What you approve are time, manner restrictions. Time, place, and manner restrictions. That's your jurisdiction. You do not approve content.
Okay. So on Thursday, it will get approved presumably, and then maybe this weekend it can get started.
Right.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. No, we needed that.
No,
We
it's fine,
needed it.
fine, you're fine.
Because now that you said that, did we say that we're adding a response and completion approval will be within a certain time frame, so it won't be on a desk for 2 weeks?
That's not gonna happen,
How do we know?
because Lee does his job well.
I mean, will it be written in? I agree,
Yeah.
but
Nothing
we
against
need-
Lee
you.
agrees to well.
Now,
Lee, so what's a reasonable, so again, the paint's gotta be approved by DPW, and that's out of his hands. But he can get an answer on real quick on that. He could have a paint specified. So Lee, what's a good turnaround time? 3 days?
no,
So that's it? And-
but we don't have specified turnarounds for outdoor cafes, for event permits.
Yeah.
This has to be consistent with what we do for other public properties.
Okay,
But we can safely say, I think, that she can paint her mural after Wednesday. We're going to say, go ahead. And if we're saying Saturday and Sunday, so this Saturday, she will be able to start painting. Does everybody agree with that?
No,
no.
See,
no.
My understanding of
Miss-
it.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Scaringi.
for a little bit of historical background here. The city council in 2010 stripped the executive branch of its ability to solely dictate how public art occurs in public space. Okay? Upon doing so, there was no process that was put in place for future prospective public art requests in public spaces to follow. We would be very wrong to say yes, no, or maybe on anything. I have spoken to more than one sitting council member who voted on that legislation at the time. And the point of doing that back in 2010, which was communicated to me, was to take the politics out of the process, out of the actual possible prospective art project in a public space. We should be solely talking about process and nothing else. If this body passes it, once court counsel authorizes the city clerk to put it up, just like the banner permit, a noise permit, an event permit, an outdoor cafe permit, it will work through the prospective process that everything else does. And when it's completed, in what I'm sure, like it always is, in an efficient and timely manner, then and only then does that request go through. We should be only talking about process because we literally, as a legislative body, we have no power or anything constituted to be talking about any singular substantive project. That is not in our purview. So just so everybody has a historical understanding of why that occurred, what happened, and why we're here and actually having the discussion that we are now.
So Ken's answer was, it will take time to go through the process. I mean, and then we don't have an answer how long it's gonna be. It's gonna take, who knows how long to get through the process. It's not gonna be months. It's not gonna probably be weeks either, but it'll take time to get through the process.
You're saying it's going to take weeks or months?
No.
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 Given the information that we already have, we may be able to do this in a day or two.
Right.
If they know what paints, if they're using the right paints and aren't telling us the wrong thing, and everybody's aware of this is why we're trying to push this through for Wednesday. Perhaps we can do it. I'm just concerned with somebody saying to the artist, oh, by the way, you're going to be able to do this on Friday, and then we find out the artist never planned on using the correct paint. Now you've told the artist something that they can't comply with. And it creates an issue, and suddenly it looks like you gave somebody false information. I don't want any of you to do that.
Right.
Correct.
I can assure you that my office and the clerk's office know that this was out there, that it was outstanding, that initially there was some confusion because nobody really remembered what happened in 2010 until we received the actual application. And the mayor's office then came to me and said, hey, Ken, we received this. And I said, I remember this from 9 or 10 years ago because I was there, right? There's no way that Jared or the mayor would know that that happened. They weren't there. They weren't familiar with it. As Councilman Burns pointed out, there are certain things they do, like the flag, that was left with the mayor. We've given the mayors the advice that if you do something and you allow it, you're opening the gates for everybody else. It's the same thing as here, right? So I can assure you, we will push this through as fast as we possibly can. It doesn't mean every application is going to be done in a day or two, but here we have most of the information already. We know the street works. We know what the message is. You know, the paint's the only thing I can see potentially holding us up.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Aviva, can we move on to URL, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. I just, as a last, sorry, I'll just say one last thought really quick. I think the reason why I don't mean to belabor this, but I just, you know, I feel like this has gone from the mayor, and then the mayor said it's city council, and then now we're saying city council can't do it. So I know that I'm new to this process, but as someone who's presenting this RL on behalf of Kristen, who is theoretically still listening, you know, I'm just like trying to, it feels like this has been belabored, like outside of our control. So anyway, as long as that will go. Okay, so can I have a hard copy, please? I have it on my phone. Thank you so much. All right, so thank you, Mr. President. So this is a, I guess maybe a proclamation or a resolution, just acknowledging that systemic racism exists and it has negatively affected people of color for centuries, and it condemns the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and I hope I'm saying this person's name right, Arbery, but at the hands of police, and also to, not police, to civilians. And then it is at the end, states that the Binghamton City Council aims to make the city of Binghamton an even more welcoming, inclusive, and safe community to all, regardless of race or ethnicity. And in order to do so, we must listen to and honor our marginalized communities. In summary, it's basically condemning systemic racism and pledging that we will not pass any legislation, or we will try to pass legislation that honors and listens to marginalized communities. I think this is timely. I think that we're seeing a national shift where people of color are, taking to the streets, which is the language of people who haven't been heard for years and years and years, who have tried all of the right paths. I'm using right in quotes, but, have tried to work within the system and haven't been heard for years and years and years. And now this is sort of the last resort, is people taking to the streets and saying, this is unacceptable. This has been going on for too long. I think it's important for us as a city council to recognize that, honor that, and pledge to listen to and honor marginalized communities.
Questions or comments on this, RL? Seeing none, nobody's waving, right? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So will this be on our?
It'll be voted on Friday, or Wednesday, yes.
This one will be voted on. Okay.
On Wednesday.
Yep, on Wednesday. Yep. I'll take a motion. Go ahead.
How are you dealing with signing out legislation tonight?
So as a friendly reminder, I'm assuming everyone in attendance tonight is sponsoring everything until I hear otherwise. So if you want your name removed from anything, please let me know.
Okay, so just to be clear, everybody's name is on every piece of legislation. If you want it to be removed, you should let Lee know by tomorrow at 1 p.m.
That works.
Well, I would like to see what is drafted from Ken,
On what now?
the
On the
organizational
process?
process. Mhm. What time will we have that? Will that be?
Ken, yes, Ken.
Ken, will we have your organizational document before 1?
No. No, you can always take your name off again once it gets circulated. But in terms of actually preparing the documents, it helps greatly for Lee, and well, Grace isn't here this week, to know who's on and who isn't. If you need to take your names off after you review it, you can do it that night. But what's been happening in the past is we don't have anybody who's actually sponsoring legislation, and Lee and Grace end up chasing people. So right now, you're just saying, do you support the legislation, yes or no? If after you read it, you can always take your name off. But I need to know that there are at least 4 people who, or a majority of the relevant committee have signed it out. Otherwise, we're all wasting our time. Okay. So that's the point of making sure we have enough names.
Council Riley, you understand what he's saying there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, just make sure.
Yes.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
You don't really mean that.